Talk of replacing Joe Biden on the Democratic ticket has exploded after last night's debate performance. The question we will discuss soberly and without hyperbole is whether that is warranted or whether it is going a little too far, a little too soon. But there is no shortage of examples here. Jon Stewart went live with a Daily Show episode last night after the debate, and he said, this cannot be real life. And he was horrified by what he saw from President Joe Biden in last night's debate. CNN's MJ Lee said that when she went to a Capitol Hill debate watch party with other Democratic lawmakers, it was grim. It was very, very grim. Here's what she explained.
Yeah, I want to bring in senior White House correspondent MJ Lee, who covers the Biden campaign, how they're seeing this tonight. What are they saying?
Yeah, well, Anderson, obviously a ton of Democrats, voters, elected officials were tuning in tonight, really nervous and really desperate for President Biden to give his a performance. And after his performance, it has really set off panic. There was one Democratic congressman I was in touch with who was on Capitol Hill at a watch party with a number of other lawmakers. And that moment early on in the debate where President Biden was talking about the national debt and seemed to lose his train of thought, paused for several seconds, and then gave a confusing answer. He said that when that happened, the entire room was just completely silent and in shock, and that this member's own reaction was that he wanted to jump off of a bridge.
All right, so obviously that's not a good reaction, wanting to jump off of a bridge. CNN's John King says, and believes, I'm sure, that this is a game-changing debate, but more importantly, that it is causing panic in the Democratic Party. And I believe that it is.
This was a game-changing debate in the sense that right now, as we speak, there is a deep, a wide, and a very aggressive panic in the Democratic Party. It started minutes into the debate, and it continues right now. It involves party strategists, it involves elected officials, it involves fundraisers. And they're having conversations about the president's performance, which they think was dismal, which they think will hurt other people down the party in the ticket. And they're having conversations about what they should do about it. Some of those conversations include, should we go to the White House and ask the president to step aside? Other of the conversations are about, should prominent Democrats go public with that call? Because they feel this debate was so terrible. They do say in moments in the debate later, the president got better and got his footing, but then at the end, even his closing statement was a little halting. The contrast between the two candidates. Let me be clear. None of them, and a lot of Republicans, don't think Donald Trump had a great night. Donald Trump broke the fact-check machine more than I can count tonight.
And I am going to get back to the Donald Trump aspect of this, which is an important one. MSNBC's Nicole Wallace, after the presidential debate, also said she's on the phone with people having a conversation that goes up to and including even today, should Biden step aside?
Yeah, I mean, I was on the phones for some of it after that became clear, and there is a conversation happening inside Biden's circle, and certainly a much more frank conversation happening inside the Democratic coalition. And I think there will be stories of a lot of concern about the performance tonight. And I think when
you say conversations happening, what do you mean?
I think people are talking. I think the conversations range from whether he should be in this race tomorrow morning to what was wrong with him. I mean, he has a cold that came out. Our own Kelly O'Donnell reported that a few minutes in, but exactly what you articulated.
Negative COVID test, but a cold.
Right. So those things were, I mean, the reason reporters were reporting on the cold was because of what you articulated. I mean, the voice was very, very soft.
We noticed the soft voice. So Nicole Wallace saying there are conversations about whether to stay in this race. And then interestingly, former Barack Obama advisor David Plouffe. And by the way, the fact that this conversation is happening on MSNBC goes to the absolute moral depravity of what's happening over on the MAGA Fox News side, which I will get to. But also on MSNBC, former Obama advisor David Plouffe said, this is an emergency.
David Plouffe is with us. David, I know you have been talking to some muckety-mucks in Democratic politics, including what we gingerly call the donor class. What was your personal David Plouffe take on what you saw tonight, and what are you hearing from the people you've been speaking with?
Well, I think consistent with your reaction, Rachel, and others on the panel, it's kind of a DEFCON 1 moment. I do think Lawrence and Chris give a very important caveat. Listen, I've been deeply involved in presidential campaign debates. Some went well, some didn't go well. The only thing that matters, and you won't really know for 3 or 4 days, is how the voters that will decide this election will react. I would also add, I have deep suspicion that Donald Trump with swing voters bombed as well. And that's the tragedy.
And we're going to get back to that. So listen, now as we are in the next day, there is a bunch of this sort of like, okay, we may have overreacted last night. It wasn't that bad. If you read a transcript of the debate with Biden's pauses and stumbles removed, Trump lied the whole way through, did not put out a vision that is positive or good for the average American, whereas Biden on most of the facts was right and he has policy to defend. That is absolutely true. And also, Trump lied with confidence and Biden seemed confused. But obviously on policy, it's Biden all the way. But right now, that's not the conversation that's being had. If you look at the New York Times op-ed page, there's a bunch of people who are saying it's time for him to go. Take a look at this. Thomas Friedman wrote a piece. President Biden is my friend. He must bow out of the race. Frank Bruni wrote a piece. Biden cannot go on like this. Patrick Healy wrote a piece. Top Democrats on Biden's debate. Bad to worse. Emperor has no clothes. Don't ask. So it's a very difficult thing to parse because if you ask me, I am saddened and appalled by the performance, but I'm not going to vote for the habitual liar, civilly liable rapist, convicted felon who's wrong on every policy, obviously. But what about the average American? And we don't know the answer to that. Going into last night's debate, the Real Clear Politics average, as I've said, was Trump plus 1.5. Where does that go in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks? The 538 forecast for the presidential election had it at 50-50. Where does it go in the next couple of weeks? I am not yet ready to say this does end Biden's campaign. In a sane world, it wouldn't. And this gets me to the next thing. No, we're going to get in a moment to what was happening over on Fox News, okay? Notice that the Democratic side and the supposed liberal media of CNN and then also MSNBC, which is editorially center-left, they're all saying Biden's performance was bad. They're all reporting on what is happening behind the closed doors of the Democratic Party. That's very different than what you see from right-wing media. Trump had a disastrous performance, and they are all completely ignoring it. And so that's just another reminder of the sort of morality and ethics difference that takes place here. A single disastrous debate, and it was disastrous, doesn't change that Biden has been a massively successful president. It doesn't change that Trump is a convicted felon, rapist, liar. But what do you do now? And you have to figure it out before the convention. There's this nightmare scenario that's being discussed about what if this goes to a contested convention and someone tries to fight Biden for the nomination with procedural maneuvers. That's a guaranteed loss for whoever is ultimately the Democratic nominee. If there's seriously going to be a discussion about a replacement, it has to be done peacefully. The guy who came off looking strongest and whose name is being mentioned the most is California Governor Gavin Newsom. Some of you will be thrilled by that. Some of you will be disgusted by that. He's a polarizing figure in the progressive audience for sure. And here he is being interviewed last night.
Governor, what was your reaction to what we saw on screen?
Well, not on the substance. He won the debate. I'm old school. I'm old-fashioned. That's what matters to me. I thought the lies, I was taking notes about all the lies. I ran out of paper.
So Gavin Newsom sticking with on substance Biden won. And he's not wrong. I mean, listen, but Biden's got the right policies and he's got the record. And then on the topic of replacement, Newsom obviously sticking to the official word, which is you don't turn your back on a guy because of one bad performance.
You were out there getting a chorus of questions about whether Biden should step down. There is panic that has set in. There is panic that has set in among people who have watched this debate, who are Democrats, people who are strategists, and some even inside Democratic campaigns. Yeah. Do you think it's unfounded?
Well, I think it's unhelpful, and I think it's unnecessary. We've got to go in and got to keep our heads high. And as I say, we've got to have the back of this president. You don't turn your back because of one performance. What kind of party does that? It's been a masterclass. 15.6 million jobs.
So Gavin Newsom sticking by Biden, and obviously he would. Everyone knows he is the heir apparent. If there were to be a replacement, it's not Michelle Obama. It's not Hillary Clinton. It's Gavin Newsom. It's abundantly clear. What about Kamala Harris? Everybody inside the party is saying the obvious replacement would be Gavin Newsom. And until the moment, if and when someone comes to him and says, we are ready to seriously talk about it, this is what he is going to say publicly. So is it going too far to seriously talk about replacing Biden right now? It depends on what you believe the impact on the average voter will be from last night's debate. Now let's talk about Trump's performance in more detail. If you live in the US, did you know that anyone can access your most private information using those people search sites? These sites are populated with information from data brokers, which have access to your social security number, login credentials, addresses, location history, even your online activity. But our sponsor, Incogni, is the service that will put your mind at ease. You just create an account, grant them the right to go to work for you, and then you sit back while Incogni has data broker sites remove your personal data from their databases, and Incogni keeps you updated on the status of everything, and they will handle any objections from those data brokers. This is often the reason people get robocalls, because their info is on one of these sites that Incogni will take you off of. Scammers use that information to commit fraud against you. Go to incogni.com/Pacman and use the code Pacman to get 60% off an annual plan. The link is in the description.